So the peanut gallery goes in and they got hacked. They did. In fact, I immediately went to Ticketmaster and changed my password because I wouldn't want anyone else to be gouged by them. That's my account.
Yeah, it is, and it shows you why you don't want Ticketmaster to have all that information, do all of the things. I mean, the biggest problem is that I think that what the Justice Department is going to do is separate out those pieces.
They should, as they should,
and they should. It's too incestuous between them because you can't have the artists, the ticket sales, the event management, and most importantly, the resale. So Ticketmaster is making money on the resale, so it gives them no incentive to protect ticket sales.
Oh, that's
and that hurts the artists a lot.
Yeah.
Because,
scalpers.
Scalpers.
They come in when tickets first go on sale, they use software and they buy up all the tickets.
And then they're reselling them through a Ticketmaster solution as well. And so it really, and scalping
so evil.
Really hurts both the audience, the fans, and the artists. The artists get paid a lot less, and the fans pay a lot more, and the folks in the middle are and it's not like someone who thought they would go and then decided not to. We're talking about people who buy a lot of tickets, and there are some, like Noah Khan is a good example. There are people who won't go through that, and they sell their tickets so that you can only sell them back to the organization, and then they're going to resell them at the same price again. Like they won't.
But then you can't play the big venues because Live Nation owns all the big venues.
He hasn't played the big venues. He sells out all the venues he has.
Yeah, because they're small.
But
for instance, Taylor Swift, people observed you could go to Italy or Brazil or pretty much anywhere else in the world where Ticketmaster doesn't hold sway, pay for the trip and the ticket for less than getting a ticket in Detroit. Exactly. And so it's bad all around. This has happened before. In the early days of movies, the movie companies owned the movie theaters.
Right.
Very similar, right?
And we may get back to that because
nobody wants a movie theater anymore.
The movie theaters are having trouble, and a lot of time the chains right now. It's been a dry 2024. It looks like 2025 will be dry. Even the things they thought were going to be hits aren't hits.
Aren't the movies worse though? Am I wrong? But since COVID, it feels like the movies are not as good.
I don't know if they're not as good. I think that the real challenge is that the talent pool was very stretched out because we were in record production. So I think it was 600 narratives and 600 scripted titles in I think 2022, which was the high watermark. We're now on our way to probably next year being at 300, so it's cut in half. What that does is there's obviously a lot of people in the business that don't have jobs right now doing that. But it also has to do with there was this happens in every industry. You get a bubble, and you run out of talent. And so that's been the challenge, is running out of talent. And so I do think it wasn't written as well. Some of the stuff, some of the effects. I mean, you look at like Aquaman 2. The first 5 minutes, you're like, I can't watch this. Like, I just, like it's,
you say that.
My wife said that. My wife was like, she goes, I couldn't watch more than 5 minutes of it. She goes, and all I could think about is what you would say if you saw it. so anyway,
you have a little bit of a reputation.
But it's just stretching. It's what we call spreading too little jam over too much bread. And
here there's a solution. Good news. OpenAI's Sora creates movies. In fact, the world-famous Tribeca Film Festival has announced they're going to have an AI-generated short film segment at the Tribeca Film Festival for films generated by Sora and other AI. And I think Sora shorts, they're called.
I think it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I mean, we have to remember that when we first started shooting movies, they would have watched them and gone, well, that's not nearly as good as the play. Like that's not, and then eventually it slowly got better.
Yeah.
But I think that it's going to take longer than people, it's not going to take forever, but it's also going to take a lot longer than people in Hollywood seem to worry about. It's hard to get humans to write good movies, let alone have a machine write good movies.
We talked about that Balloonhead movie. I don't know if you remember that. That was an AI-generated movie, except it kind of wasn't. They had to cobble it
Almost
together.
All of these are like we had to cobble them together.
And we had to shoot a guy with there's a mix of human. Now, Sora, unlike the other AI video generators, which normally on short little clips can do 60 seconds at a time.
Right.
So that's
a really long clip. I mean,
when
I worked on a film for Star Wars that was and I worked on it for 9 weeks. And someone said, how are you working on the one shot for 9 weeks? And I was like, it's 240 frames, which is about 10 seconds. And they're like, 240 frames? Like, that is, how do you,
Could they have done Princess Amidala's ship in AI these days? That's what you did, right?
It would have been hard. It would have been hard to do that. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that we did by hand that we changed every single time that would have been difficult to reproduce. I mean, there's definitely things that we did do with algorithmically. It wasn't AI back then. Was we had so when Anakin's Naboo fighter flies into the donut ship. We used to call it the donut ship. I don't know what it's called. Whatever they were, the donut ship, the big donuts.
The donut, yeah.
Flying around the donut ship, and you see all these droids running across the floor. Well, we didn't animate those. That was a particle system. Yeah. So basically, the particle system goes up, and I actually did some of those droids. And so we had these little droids, and we had motion. We had motions for them that were motion captured, and they all had these little motions. And they could switch between them. But we would set up rules like they cast rays from the front of them, and if they see something that is an enemy, they would pick up their gun and fire at it. And if they didn't, they would just keep running. But it was all automated. And then it was like, don't run into each other, don't run through each other, run away from bad things, run towards, so you give it a bunch of rules.
And they used that?
Oh yeah, that was 25 years ago.
Wow.
And that's what, Massive was what they used for Lord of the Rings. Same thing, all those big armies in Lord of the Rings, all the orcs, that's all Massive.
Were autonomous. They were autonomous orcs.
Semi-autonomous orcs. They were
semi-autonomous orcs. That's your worst nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, and the thing
By the way, where did you get this on Tatooine, this mug? What is this mug? It looks like a Star Wars mug.
It is the Star Wars mug. It came from
I have no idea what it says.
The Black Spire. Yeah.
It came from
Universal's the Disney.
Yeah, it's very nice. It's very nice.
They're lovely mugs.
Disney, right? They own Star Wars, not Universal. Wishes.
No, yeah, I said Universal instinctively.
Wishes they own Disney.
It's a nice mug. I have no idea what it says.
Isn't that nice?
I used to give people tours of the ranch because I used to work at the ranch, and they would ask me all these trivia questions. I'm like, hey, I just work on the movies. I have no. They're like, who was Queen Amidala's brother, and what, and I was like, I don't know.
What do you think? I'm a Star Wars nerd.
Yeah.
We will be talking in a little bit to Scott Wilkinson, our home theater geek. He'll be up in about half an hour. Also, the birthday boy, Johnny Jett, will be here in an hour and a half to talk about travel. So we got home theater and travel. But the most important part of this show is your questions, your calls, your suggestions. 888-724-2884 is the phone number. That's 888-724-ATTG. Clever, aren't we? I can never remember that, so probably not that clever. You can also use Zoom on your device. Just point it to your web browser to call.twit.tv. Zoom will magically appear, and then you will magically appear in our Stargate over here.
We should probably jump into the calls.
Should we jump into the calls?
We have a nice lineup.
Let's get going here, and then
I have to pick up this one caller because he called in early, and I told him I would pick up on him first.
You thought it'd be a good idea.
That'd be nice.
Let's see.
Let's pick up on, I think, Jonathan, but I could be wrong too.
Hello, caller. What's your first name and what city are you calling from?
Yes, hi, this is Jonathan. I have called before.